Good morning. Henry's going to be joining us a little later on. So let's go ahead and get started with warm-ups. Welcome to Wednesday morning medical Qigong practice. We're working on our golden 8. So we're going to open up. Feet are hip width, shoulder width apart. We're settling into this space. Relaxing the bottoms of the feet. Softening the knees. Relaxing the low back. Relaxing the shoulders. Allowing the tip of the tongue to touch the roof of the mouth. And allowing the very top of the head to reach up into the sky. Breathing in and out through the nose. We're going to go ahead and sway from side to side, bringing our hands into loose fists so that as we swing, we create some of that wonderful vibration to help open up the channels, open up the tissues. Promoting greater chi and blood flow. Keeping the low back nice and relaxed, especially if you haven't been moving around too much this morning. And then continue working your way up to the opposing shoulder. Allowing the mind to connect with the area with which you're tapping. And then letting that arm descend back down the torso. Gradually releasing the hands and coming back to the center. Widening the stance. Keeping the feet parallel. We're tapping the inner thigh and then up at the hip. Transitioning, starting from the hip down the inner aspect of the legs towards just above the ankle. Coming to the lateral aspect of the legs, working our way back on up towards the hips, sliding that left foot a little closer to the right, maintaining that hip width, shoulder width distance. And then continuing up to the low back. Waking up the kidneys. Placing the palms at the low back, circling down the sides and up the spine. Bringing a little bit of warmth and energy to the kidneys. We're resting the palms at the low back and closing the eyes. Inhaling, guiding the breath and the chi to the low back, allowing it to fill up with energy. Exhaling, allowing this energy to flow to wherever it's needed within the body. Inhaling, guiding the breath and the chi to the low back. Exhaling, allowing it to flow freely to wherever it's needed. Inhaling and exhaling at your own pace. Allowing the breath to relax the body. Allowing the mind to sink into the breath. And letting the chi flow freely to wherever it's needed within the body. Gently opening the eyes, letting the arms come back down to the sides and closing by bringing that left foot back to the right. And let's go ahead and start our Golden 8 exercises. Opening. Reach for happiness for the lung and large intestine. Inhaling. Exhaling. In and out. Inhaling. Exhaling. In and out. At your own pace now, getting ready to close. Closing. Our heart small intestine exercise, the archer. Inhaling. Exhaling. In. And out. Continuing at your own pace, speeding up or slowing down to whatever your breath would like. Getting ready to close. Closing. Our spleen stomach exercise between heaven and earth. Inhaling. Exhaling. In. And out. Inhaling. And exhaling. Relaxing into the exercise, relaxing into the breath. Getting ready to close. Closing. Our fourth exercise, the Sanjiao and pericardium exercise. Turn and look back. Inhaling and exhaling. In and out. Inhaling and exhaling. Getting ready to close. Closing. Liver and gallbladder. Twist and release. Inhaling. And exhaling. In. And out. Moving at your own pace. Getting ready to close. Closing. Kidney and urinary bladder, bend for health, opening. Inhaling. Exhaling. In. And out. Inhaling. Exhaling. In. Out. Inhaling back to the start. Getting ready to close. closing. Our Ren channel exercise, energy punch. Inhaling. Exhaling. In. And out. And getting ready to close. Closing. Our dew channel exercise, energy jump in 2 parts. Inhaling. And exhaling. Transitioning to part 2, inhaling and exhaling. Closing. Keeping the feet together, bringing the palms together. Transferring some of that wonderful energy to the palms so that we can then bring it to the face. Washing the face. After 9 times, wiping the brow. After 9 times, wiping up and down the nose. Circles inward and outward, 9 times. Nine circles again underneath the pupils at the cheekbone, inward and outward. And then dredging the channels of the scalp using all the fingertips. beating the drum. Grasping the ears. Popping the cork. And then connecting the Ren and the Du channels, circles inward and outward. Massaging the jaw. And then drawing the energy down towards the torso, 12 times total. Continuing down the breastbone. And then placing the palms at the lower dantian, closing the eyes. Inhaling, guiding the breath in the chi to the lower dantian, allowing it to fill up with energy. Exhaling, allowing that energy to settle and store so that you may utilize it throughout the rest of your day. Inhaling, guiding the breath in the chi to that lower dantian, filling it up. Exhaling, allowing that energy to settle and store. Inhaling and exhaling at your own pace. Allowing the mind to relax into the breath. Allowing the breath to relax the body. And allowing the chi to settle and store so that it may be utilized for the rest of your day. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Henry, we're ready for our chi chat.
Oh, goody. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Thank you, Mary Frances. That was an awesome practice. So today we're talking about faces and 5 elements. So yesterday we talked about the different, the 5 elements and how they relate to different face shapes and kind of a broader view of some of the features that would define certain elements. And then the day before we talked about, architecture. So I'm trying to get you familiar with these 5 elements and how they relate to different things in our lives, including ourselves. So today I do want to talk about congruency, because I did mention that a few times briefly about congruency. What congruency means is that you see one thing and does it match something else? Like, for example, if the whole body, for you see like wood, but then on the face, you see maybe only water, okay? So, or maybe you also see like maybe they're a friend of yours and you know their personality, but their personality doesn't really match their body or their face. And so what does that mean, right? So congruency is really important because you can't really take one feature and say, aha, they must be that. Okay, you have to kind of take a look at the overall picture and you want to factor in everything. And then that gives you a more precise understanding of people, because we're all very nuanced and we are not also all using our gifts, nor are we dealing with our challenges. So, because we're human beings, and sometimes we want to shove things under the rug, and other times we want to, do what's best for other people and not us. So sometimes we're not using our gifts. They could be for different reasons. It could be for maybe there's trauma, something in your childhood uh, that said, okay, well, I shouldn't really display so much of my fire. I should keep it in. So there's different reasons, but we want to look for that congruency because that gives us a better picture. Because they may have a lot of gift of earth, but they may not show it. And it's like, well, what's going on? Okay. So we want to reveal some of these things. And I really like this part um, of what I call face reading. Uh, it's not about fortune telling. It's really more, for me, about understanding yourselves. Okay. Before we look at, before we try to like dissect other people, I really think this stuff is really good for understanding yourself, helping to understand your own gifts, your own challenges, maybe gifts that you never embraced. Maybe you have a lot of metal, the gift of metal, but perhaps you weren't using it. Maybe for other people, you're using it too much to the extent that it, means you're not using your other gifts. So that could apply for all these different elements. And I really do want to emphasize the fact that it's about using the right elements in their right proportions at different times of your life, so that we're not all just holding on to what we do best in every single scenario, even if it's not appropriate. So we want to be able to have that flexibility, have that ability to adjust to life circumstances, so that we can change, we can learn, we can grow, and we can be sometimes more receptive, and sometimes more in action when it's appropriate. Okay, so that's one thing, congruency. And so when you're looking at these things and you're looking at yourself, don't be alarmed if you're like, well, I see a lot of one element, but I don't really feel it. So that might be some good questions to take along with us as we go on this exploration journey. The other thing is there's also a difference between your inner side and your outer side. And what I mean by that is, like we have our public face to the world, who we are when we are dealing with, like, say, business, when we're at work. That may be very different than how we are when we're around, like, our partner or our family. So there's that too. So that's that yin side and yang side. And that also shows up on the face. How does that show up on the face? We have the left side and right side of our face. And so the left side, we say in Qigong, okay, left side is more of the masculine energy, and the right side, we say, is more the feminine energy. Now that also, it doesn't always correspond to male and female, okay? Or like, doesn't correspond, your gender identity does not necessarily correspond to your physical identity. Because, for example, I have a friend who has two dads, okay? And so, like, well, does that mean that it's all masculine energy? No. It could be like, also, like, some people are raised more by their dads versus their moms. Maybe their dad was a stay-at-home person. So you can't always correspond the physical with the identity. So what I mean by that is that, so you could have, like, a male physical, but they have more feminine qualities, or they may be the person who is doing the most of the stay-at-home stuff. So we say that's more of the feminine energy versus the masculine energy. So we want to distinguish that as well. But so we say the feminine energy, which is your right side of your face. Now, this is a little counterintuitive, okay? Because we say that the feminine energy, and traditionally it's your mom who kind of teaches you about the world, who teaches you how to be in the world. And some of those lessons, especially when you're very young, like when you're a baby, when you're 1, when you're 2, those very formative years, it's the feminine energy in your life at that time that shows you those things. So on the right side, which is the feminine energy, so I just want to go slowly on this, so it's anti-intuitive. You would think it's about your internal side, but it's more about your external, like how you show up in the world is more impacted by your feminine side. So the right side of your face, okay, so you probably see that so you have to understand like this. So when I say the right, it's my right, not your right. So the right side of my face is more about that mother's influence, okay? So whoever the mother is, it could be, again, it could be someone who's physically male in your family. It could be your grandpa, it could be, your dad, it could be whoever. But so that feminine side is gonna affect how you show up in the world. So the right side of your face is how you appear. And it may not necessarily be your real self. Your internal self could be very different. For example, let's look at control, okay? So control on the right side is how you are more externally. It's your relationship to external control, like how you perhaps show up with control in your business, and perhaps how you relate to strangers, stuff like that. So you may appear to be very controlling in your life because of your right side shows up that way. However, your left side, okay, maybe if that's more prominent on your face, that's more about self-control, like how you control yourself versus how you control other people. So there's that internal and external factor about yourself and how that shows up. So again, right side of the face, okay, it's about how you show up in the world. Left side is more about you internally. That's more of what we say father influence or masculine influence in your life. So it's more about internal principles, how you are with yourself, how you see yourself, how you relate to people who are very close to you, the intimacy factor. That's all more on the left side of the face. Okay, so we have congruency, we have left and right sides, okay? And so we look at that when we start to examine different parts of the face. So really quickly, because we're running out of time today, okay? So a lot of the areas of the face do correspond to what we already learned in facial rejuvenation, okay? So eyes and eyebrows, this area of the face, okay, is gonna be more related to your liver, the wood area of the face, okay, your liver and gallbladder. And then the fire part of the face, as we learned with the faces yesterday, like it's all the peaks. Okay, so it's actually all the features, like anything that has like little peaks on them, okay, like that smile, there's a little peak, or freckles are also very fiery, or the ears are more Spock ear-like, okay, but no one has Spock ears, okay, but it's gonna appear a little bit more pointy than more round. I don't really have the fire ears, okay, and but one area that's very much fire is physically location is the tip of the nose, okay? But if you can see, that's also like a peak, right? For all of us. So the tip of the nose is really much related to your heart. So that's fire. And then what were we next? Earth, okay. So earth is that, like the fullness, the fleshiness of all the features, that tends to be earth. But the earth part of the face is around the mouth. The mouth and also the chin, okay? The chin has a lot to do with that willpower, that stubbornness, okay? We say that's earth, very grounded into the earth. People who aren't willing to budge with their opinions. So they have a very strong chin, okay? They also tend to have full lips meaning they're able to really speak their truth, okay? People who have that versus like people who have very thin lips, we say tend to hold back their words more. Again, we look at congruency, so you could have someone who has thin lips, but they are always speaking their mind. So why is that, right? So we look at other parts of the face that would counteract that would balance that out. That's why, again, I really emphasize like looking at the whole picture of things and how different things fit together. And my teacher Patricia says it best when she says that, God didn't make everyone have like all, like the same faces, nor that we have too much of one thing. Like you may have someone who has a lot of maybe a wood body, and like they have that like really rectangular face, but then they have other features that help soften that so that they're not all like super focused and super like goal-oriented and super competitive at the same time. So, we look at the balance of all these things. Okay, so moving on to metal. Metal is like the angular features on the face. So they have more of a thin skin. So the features like more bony structures tend to show up, especially like cheekbones, the cheek area, the nose. Okay, we say metal is lung and large intestine, so that makes sense, right? And then finally, water. Okay, water goes to the ears. So this is about risk-taking ability. Like people with big ears tend to have more innate ability to take risks. That's for both good and bad, okay? So some of them have very low regard for fear, and they like to take a lot of risks, whether that's gambling risks or business risks or stock risks, or personal, like they maybe do a lot of skydiving, things that maybe for most of us think are very scary they would do. So there's that risk-taking ability. Doesn't mean if you have small ears you're always afraid. Okay, it may mean that you're smarter about the risk that you take, and you're more intelligent. You go through more steps to analyze, well, is this a risk worth taking? Whereas someone that has big ears wouldn't give a second thought about it. And that also differentiates between left and right ear. If the left ear is bigger than the right, what does that mean, the inner versus the outer? Okay, so that gives you a little bit of overview. I'd like to go a little bit in more detail as we go along, but I really want to address like that congruency issue and also the inner and outer today. So thank you very much for joining us. If you have any questions, stuff like that, let us know. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow, okay? Thank you very much.